In 1967, an informant told the FBI the Gambino crime family mobster Aniello Dellacroce was going to become the boss of the Genovese family. Sounds crazy? Let's check it out. I'm James Gladwish and welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the claim from an informant the Gambino family underboss Aniello Dellacroce could possibly become the boss of the Genovese crime family. Aniello Dellacroce is famous for being a long-time member of what we now call the Gambino crime family. He had come up in the underworld in the 1930s and 40s in the then Mangano crime family. When Anastasia headed the family from 1951, Dellacroce was a soldier in the crew of family captain Armand Tommy Rava. After Anastasia was murdered in 1957, and Carlo Gambino was selected as boss of the family on a provisional basis, Aniello Dellacroce, alongside Tommy Rava, led a faction of the family that rebelled against the idea of Gambino becoming boss. As one FBI file stated, in regard to the death of Johnny Roberts, a former capo di Cina in the Anastasia family of Cosa Nostra, informant related that it is his opinion he was killed by Tommy Rava and Aniello Dellacroce. Roberts was killed as he was leaning towards Carlo Gambino in Gambino's efforts to take over the Anastasia family, and inasmuch as Rava and Dellacroce were opposed to Gambino, they killed Roberts. Around the time that his friend Armand Tommy Rava was murdered by Gambino loyalists, Aniello Dellacroce switched allegiances and pledged his support to Carlo Gambino. As an FBI file reads, informant noted that Dellacroce had been able to get himself reinstated with the Gambino contingent, who had taken over the Anastasia family. Some sources state that Aniello Dellacroce's newfound allegiance to Carlo Gambino saw him allegedly rewarded with the position of captain in the family. An informant then told the authorities in February 1967 that Aniello Dellacroce had become the underboss of the family, replacing Joseph Biondo. As an FBI file reads, NYT25 advised that in February 1967 it was decided that Carlo Gambino would remain as boss of the Gambino family, but due to increased pressures by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and other law enforcement agencies on Gambino, Paul C. Castellano was acting boss for Carlo in all matters. Aniello Dellacroce was appointed underboss in this family. And then, just a few months later, in May 1967, an informant stated that Genovese family acting boss Gerardo Catena and family heavyweight Mike Miranda had voted and decided the Gambino mobster Aniello Dellacroce would become the new boss of the Genovese crime family. The FBI file states, on 5567, NY redacted information 6-C-TE advised that Aniello Dellacroce, Gambino LCN family captain, has been made boss of the Genovese LCN family. Informant said that Gerardo Catena, acting boss Genovese family, and Michele Miranda, captain Genovese family, voted for Dellacroce in preference to Tommy Eboli, acting boss of the Genovese family. Informant said that Eboli and his followers are very upset over this happening and do not appreciate having a Sicilian heading up a family made up chiefly of Neapolitans. Further information about this amazing but erroneous claim can be seen in the following FBI file that states, reference teletype contained information received from NY redacted information CTE that Aniello Dellacroce had succeeded Thomas Eboli as head of the Genovese underworld family. NY redacted information CTE was instructed to pursue this matter for possible confirmation. NY redacted information CTE advised he received this information about Dellacroce succeeding Eboli from Andrew Beccaro, aka Andy Curley, FBI number 349167.
informant describes Beccaro as an old-time member of LCN in the Gambino or Bonanno family of LCN. Beccaro's arrest record reflects an extensive criminal record dating back to 1923.
So let's take a look at these two files. In the first file from May 1967, the informant states that Aniello Dellacroce was a Gambino family captain. However, other information from other FBI files show us that Aniello Dellacroce had been appointed the underboss of the Gambino family several months before. This knowledge was evidently unknown to the informant. The first file states that there were members of the Genovese family who supported acting underboss Thomas Eboli, who stated that they weren't happy with the decision to have Aniello Dellacroce as their boss, as they didn't want a Sicilian heading their family. However, we know that Aniello Dellacroce's heritage was Neapolitan. In the history of Cosa Nostra in the United States, the practice of transferring members between families did occur. However, rarely when the New York City families were involved. But there are a few examples, such as Nicholas Bianco, who allegedly transferred from the New England Patriarca crime family to the Colombo family in New York City, and then, years later, back to the Patriarca family. Another example is Alphonse Ali Boy Persico, who was said to have been abducted by the Pittston family and transferred to the Colombos. Both these transfers occurred due to the books for membership being closed in New York. However, the idea that the underboss of one New York family would become the boss of another rival New York family appears to be fairly unbelievable. The second file states that the informant heard his information from Andrew Andy Curly Beccaro, who was a mobster connected with the Bonanno family. It would ultimately appear that this was a case of Chinese whispers and street gossip regarding a promotion that Aniello Dellacroce had received. The FBI file does then state,
NY redacted number CTE states he has attempted to discuss this matter with Gerardo Mosiello, Thomas Musto, and Anthony Mosiello, who informant describes as members of the Genovese family of LCN. Informant states he has been unable to corroborate the story he received from Beccaro, but does believe that Dellacroce has received some sort of promotion within the framework of the underworld.
As we can see from this file, the informant was not able to confirm the story with individuals that he believed were connected with the Genovese family, but that there was talk that Dellacroce had received some sort of promotion, which, as we know, was his elevation within the Gambino family to the position of underboss. While FBI files provide a great wealth of information for mob historians, the source of that information should always be considered. Even with those informants who did provide what we consider fairly accurate information, there were still mistakes, as let's not forget that they are discussing what is essentially a secret criminal organization. The FBI would document all the information that they received, regardless of how erroneous it might be. And ultimately, in this case, they tried to ascertain the validity of the Dellacroce story with other informants that they had, and would appear to come to the conclusion that Dellacroce wasn't to become the boss of the Genovese family, and had in fact been promoted to underboss within his own family, the Gambinos. As one FBI file states,
information provided by NY redacted number CTE has not been corroborated by other New York informants. NY redacted number CTE has advised that he believes that Dellacroce may have been elevated to the position vacated by the death of Joseph Biondo.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story. Thanks for watching.